Hello friends, welcome to our discussion on public administration previous year's questions. Today we will discuss some more questions which are asked in the 2019 as well as in 2020. Right? The first question that we are going to discuss today is a question that has come in 2019 mains. So let me read the question first. If there is ever to be a science of public administration, it must derive from an understanding of man's behavior. Explain. So it was asked for 10 marks, which is to be written in 150 words. So this is our first question. So let me highlight the important elements of the question asked. If there is ever to be a science of public administration, it should be derived from understandings of man's behavior. Right? So these are the two words or two important elements of the question that should be kept in mind while writing the answer. So let us talk about the structure of the answer. Right? If there is ever to be a science of public administration, then it should be derived from the understanding of human behavior. So definitely it is a question that is asked on the scientific status of public administration. So now coming to this question, we should recollect the views of L.D. White, and at the same time you can also use the views of Robert Dahl. Right? So these are the two thinkers that we should use for our answer. Right? We will use these two thinkers for our answer. So if we take the first part of the answer, it is introduction of the answer. So here we will try to highlight how the public administration got emerged. We all know that public administration has emerged as a scientific discipline. The father of public administration, Woodrow Wilson, regarded public administration as the science, and he called it as the latest fruit in the science of politics. That is, the science of administration is the latest fruit in the science of politics. And for him, that is, according to Woodrow Wilson, science mean it is a systematic knowledge, a body of systematic knowledge that is applied. So this clearly shows that for early thinkers in public administration, that is in the initial days of evolution of public administration is regarded as a science, and even the work is done towards making public administration more scientific. So it was made more scientific by bringing the principles of administration. So if you recollect the second stage in the evolution of public administration, the entire focus was on bringing out principles of public administration. To take the views of Willoughby, right, who stated that it is the duty of the scholars of public administration to bring out all the principles of public administration. Notably, these principles came from scientific management theory, administrative management theory, bureaucratic theory, right? So the entire efforts was on making public administration more scientific, right? So this is what our first two paras of the answer, right? So but over a period of time, that is by the third stage in the evolution of public administration, right, it was this scientific status of public administration was criticized by behavioral thinkers, particularly Robert Dahl and Herbert Simon. So our focus of criticism will be on so our focus of criticism is on using Robert Dahl, right? So it is Robert Dahl who has highlighted it is Robert Dahl who has highlighted the problems in claiming the status of a science in public administration. So Robert Dahl, in his book, The Science of Public Administration, Three Problems. Science of Public Administration, Three Problems. He has highlighted three problems. One is, right, exclusion of normative considerations. That is, the problems concerned with normative considerations in public administration. Second one is the problem concerned with predicting of human behavior. The problems of predicting human behavior. And the third problem is the cross-cultural applicability of principles. Cross-cultural applicability of principles. So our focus, our question focuses on the element of predicting of human behavior. So if you go back to our question, it says that if public administration to be called as science, it should be in a position to predict human behavior. Right? So unless public administration understands human behavior, it cannot claim the status of science. So this is what our the focus of the question is. That means our entire answer should revolve around the second element, that is predicting of human behavior. All right. So it is according to Robert Dahl. According to Robert Dahl, unless the nature of man is clearly understood in the areas of public administration, right, and his conduct is more predictable, then one cannot claim the status of science to public administration. Right. So understanding human behavior in public administration, understanding human behavior in public administration, predicting the conduct of the individuals. Right. Unless these two are done, right, according to Robert Dahl, public administration cannot claim the status of a science. Right. So traditionally, that is in the evolutionary process, public administration has focused more on formal aspects of the organization. Right. It is on the formal aspects of organization which were focused to bring out the principles, and it is these principles, right, which are used for making public administration more scientific. Remember, so these principles are brought out only by understanding the mechanical and formal aspects of the organization. Such a principle, so such principles cannot be used to determine and predict human behavior, right, as they are brought on the backdrop of, as they are brought by focusing on formal and mechanical aspects. Such principles cannot be used to understand human beings, to understand the behavior of human beings and predict their behavior. So as long as this is not done, right, these principles cannot be used for organizations, and these principles cannot make public administration as scientific. Right. So according to Robert Dahl, public administration can claim a status of science only when it precisely predicts human behavior in the organization. And this is possible only when socio-psychological aspects of the organization is understood. It is only when the socio-psychological aspects of the organizations are understood, right, and the principles that are derived by understanding these socio-psychological aspects of organization, that means understanding the socialness and psychological aspects of the individuals in the organization, right, public administration cannot claim this science, the status of science. Right. The science of public administration is possible only when these aspects, that is, focus should not be only on formal aspects, even the focus should be on socio-psychological aspects of the organization, socio-psychological aspects of the human nature, human beings in the organization. So unless this humanness is predicted, we cannot claim science. Right. So any principles of public administration, any principle of public administration, right, that is put to use should be brought, right, by analyzing both formal as well as human nature of individuals. Right. So that is what the answer for this question is. So we can conclude that, right. So public administration can be called as science, can claim a status of science, that only when it has principles that can clearly predict and understand human behavior in the organization. So this is the answer for our question, right? So our answer entirely focuses on the criticism of Robert Dahl. So by using Robert Dahl, we can write a very good answer. So here no need to write all the criticisms of Robert Dahl. Here we need to focus only on the second element, that is the problems associated with the prediction of human behavior, because our question is very precise, right? And our answer should be focused only to that element, right? So coming to the next question is the movement towards governance as an organizing concept for public administration and management is because the focus of public administration has been shifting from bureaucratic state to hollow state and third party government critically examine. So it is a question asked in 2020 mains for 20 marks, right? So here it is about, so there are two elements in this question, right? If you take this question, it highlights the changing nature of state, changing nature of state, right? And growing importance of governance, growing importance of governance, right? So these are the two elements that are highlighted in this question. So the movement towards governance as an organizing concept of public administration is because of shift in the focus of public administration from bureaucratic state to hollow state and third party state. So let us analyze this question, right? So let me highlight different elements of the question first. The first element that we should focus is on, right, the emerging concept, sorry, the movement towards governance, moving towards governance, moving towards governance as an organizing concept of public administration and management is because there be is because a shift of focus of public administration, right? So the question itself says that there is a shift in the focus of public administration, shift of focus of public administration from bureaucratic state, from bureaucratic state to hollow state, hollow state and third party government, hollow state and third party government, right? So this is the question is, so from bureaucratic state, I'm giving the structure of the answer. We should write, we should define what is hollow state. The first point is what is hollow state. The second point is the factors that led to change in the nature of state, change in the nature of state. The third para, all right, critically explaining hollow state, the features of hollow state, the advantages, why it is preferred. We should explain all these things. All right. Then in the next para, we should, all right, explain the relevance of this hollow state, relevance of hollow state to the third world countries. Third world countries are developing and underdeveloped societies. Right? And fourth one, the conclusion. The conclusion should be optimistic. That is, we should never reject hollow state because, right, over a period of time, when these countries moves from developing to developed stage, obviously they will go for hollow state philosophy. Right, the conclusion. So these are the this is what we should write in our answer. So our answer should contain the right, this structure and these points. Right. So traditionally public administration is designed on the Weberian lines. So it is Weberian bureaucratic theory that has influenced the working of public administration, and this was more suitable for regulatory states, regulatory state, and for a laissez-faire state. So this this bureaucratic style of working, it is more suitable for regulatory state and laissez-faire state, right? So, right, but today there is a changing nature of state. There is a changing nature of state, right? So this change in the nature of state, this change in the nature of state is because of advocacy of new right philosophy. It is because of emergence of new right philosophy, which took the shape of Thatcherism and Reaganism, which ultimately led to liberalization, privatization, which led to liberalization and privatization. Another factor is emergence of third world countries and their goal of development. And their goal of development, right, uh, led to the shift of nature of state from bureaucratic state. So it is these factors. It is these factors that led to change in the nature of state from bureaucratic state to welfare state, and contracting state, and a corporate state, competitive state, right? So corporate state and competitive state, right, is the new form of state. So it is these factors and the emergence of right the concepts like new public management, good governance, emergence of concepts like new public management, good governance, right, gave emphasis on the right, led to increased importance of quality of governance, quality of governance rather than the quantity of government. So it is not about the quantity of government, it is the quality of governance that became the central element of public administration. So now the focus is more on increasing the quality of governance rather than on defining the structure or rather than defining the quantity of the government. It is not about right, more government. It is not about more government, it is more about governance. It is more about governance, as said by Ted Gabler and David Osborne in their book Reinventing Government. Now this focus is on efficiency, economy, and effectiveness. Right. So these have become the watchwords of the governance. Good governance, that it aims in improving the quality, ensures people participation. Right. So it is these factors that led to change in the nature of state. Right. Right. That is from government to governance. It is from government to governance. right? So as a part of evolution, right, as a part of evolution, right, so this new right philosophy or NPM, new public management, right, they gave a new dimensions to the state, where state instead of doing everything, right, state instead of directly providing goods and services, state is given a new role. State is given a new role. That is, state should act as a facilitator, right? It should act as a catalyst. It should act as a promoter rather than doing all things, right? So rather than doing, it should facilitate, right? It should act as a catalyst, or it should promote. State should decrease its fun activities, right? Roll back of state. State is required to bring down its role, cut down its functions, cut down its activities wherever possible, and contract out these activities to third party. Right? So rollback of state along with contracting out. Contracting out. That is what hollow state. So what is hollow? Hollow state describes a set of practices. It is nothing but a set of practices where the government contracts its functions to the, right, it functions of providing goods and services to the third party, to the third parties. So hollow state represents, hollow state refers to a practice. It refers to a practice of contracting out, contracting out the functions of providing goods and services to third parties. Contracting out to the third parties. So these third parties may be profit oriented or non profit oriented. It can be profit or a non profit organizations. Right? So it is a new form of state, where state is involved only in contracting. State even does not regulate. State does not commands or controls. So there is no command and control of the state. There is no command and control of the state on this third party. State is involved only in, right, identifying the best contract. State is involved only in contracting out to the best service provider. All right. So hollow state, it is describes, it is simply about to what extent state is involved in providing of goods and services, to what extent state is directly involved in providing of goods and services. All right. So this is what about hollow state. So why this contracting is preferred? What is the reason for preferring these contracts? First of all, it will increase, it will increase, right, the investments. It will pull up the investments that are required for providing goods and services. Secondly, it will reduce the unnecessary expenditure of the government. It will reduce the unnecessary expenditure of government. Right? State will be in a better position for, right, inspecting of what is being provided. That is, state can, right, check out to what extent these services are given. Right? So it will reduce the role of, it will reduce corruption and delays in providing these goods and services. Right? So these are the basic advantages of this third party governments. These are the basic advantages that are cited for contracting out the functions of the government. So this is the new trend, right? And this has become the focus of public administration. The focus of public administration is on this contracting out to the third parties. Mostly it is the private organizations, right? Because the civil societies, though it is civil societies are also involved, but civil societies, because of lack of funds, lack of adequate human resources, right? Because of civil societies, there what you call uh, lack of accountable structures, lack of lack of ensuring accountability of these civil societies. So civil societies are not private organizations are preferred over civil societies in contracting these functions, right? So this is the new philosophy, this is the new focus of public administration. The days of bureaucratic state has went out. Now it is a contract, now it is about a contractual state, a contract state, a state which is involved in contracting out. Alright, so this is the answer. Now this philosophy of third party governments, another para we should have, even we should talk about to what extent it is desirable for third world countries, developing countries, which are in the early stages of development, which are actively involved in providing goods and services to the poor people, particularly. So to what extent this third party governments, right, can be applied or can be implemented in developing and underdeveloping countries. So if you take these developing and underdeveloped countries, right, where there is more amount of poverty, right, and all the forms of social evils, right, where the majority population is dependent on government for providing goods and services, right, in these type of cultures, in these developing and underdeveloped countries, right, third party governments or hollow state, right, will not bring desirable results. Hollow state functions better in those societies, right, which are of, in those societies where there is adequate development, where there is low amount of poverty, low amount of unemployment. So there hollow state can bring uh, uh, the desired results, but the same cannot be expected in developing or underdeveloped countries, right? So this is how we can conclude the answer. So first of all, I'm giving the structure of the answer. We should write, we should define what is hollow state. The first point is what is hollow state. The second point is the factors that led to change in the nature of state. Change in the nature of state. The third para, all right, critically explaining hollow state, the features of hollow state, the advantages, why it is preferred. We should explain all these things. All right. Then in the next para, we should, all right, explain the relevance of this hollow state. Relevance of hollow state to the third world countries. Third world countries are developing and underdeveloped societies, right? And fourth one, the conclusion should be optimistic. That is, we should never reject hollow state, because, right, over a period of time, when these countries moves from developing to developed stage, obviously they will go for hollow state philosophy, right? The conclusion. So these are the this is what we should write in our answer. So our answer should contain the, right, this structure and these points.